Have you ever put on a wedding dress? Not for love, but to hide something? The first time I saw my reflection in the wedding dress, I didn't see a bride. I saw a cover-up, a shield, a lie tailored in silk. The woman in the mirror didn't look in love. She looked like she was trying to stay alive. The zipper at my back hissed as I pulled it up myself. Alone. No bridesmaids, no soft laughter, no mother's hands adjusting the veil. Just me, and the silence of a hotel suite high above a city that didn't know or care that I was about to give my life to a man I barely knew. Correction, a man I didn't trust, not because he was a stranger, but because he was too known, too precise, too dangerous in how quietly he could ruin someone, and I'd seen it. Up close. 3 months ago, I stood in a courtroom hallway, my career dangling by a thread. A student's lie. A smear campaign. My name was halfway to being synonymous with scandal. And then, he showed up. Ethan Ward. Power. Cold, corporate, untouchable. He didn't offer sympathy. He offered a solution. Marry me. 3 months. No questions. And your name disappears from every headline I control. I laughed at first. Then I looked into his eyes. That man doesn't bluff, and he never loses. Now, 3 hours before the wedding, I sit barefoot on the marble floor, staring at the veil pooled beside me like a surrender flag. The dress fits too well, like it knew what it was made for, like it was designed for someone who'd given up. I press my palm to my stomach. Not from nerves, from something deeper. This dull, bitter ache of knowing I had no real choice. Not if I wanted to keep teaching. Not if I wanted to keep the last thread of my old life intact. Knock slices through the silence. I don't answer. The door opens anyway. A woman in black steps in, Ethan's assistant. All cheekbones and clipped words. Mr. Ward is ready. The car's downstairs. You have 10 minutes. 10 minutes until I marry a man who speaks to me like I'm an employee. Who hasn't touched me once, not even by accident. And yet, something in me still bristles when I think of him with another woman. I hate that. I hate that I care. As the door clicks shut behind her, I pick up the veil. I don't put it on. I stare at it. What do you call a bride who walks down the aisle knowing she's not loved? A sacrifice? A fool? Or something colder? I don't know. But I do know this. In 3 hours, I'll marry Ethan Ward. And for the first time in my life, I won't be able to tell if I'm the prisoner or the weapon. If you were me, would you have said yes? Would you have taken the deal to bury your past, even if it meant tying yourself to a man who only looked at you like a solution? It started with a lie. One text message from a student, faked screenshots, a twisted narrative, and the world fell apart faster than I could say, "That's not true." I was a young art teacher in an elite girls' school. I wore turtlenecks, graded essays by candlelight, and believed kindness could protect me. It couldn't. Overnight, I went from beloved teacher to possible predator. And the internet doesn't ask for proof. It asks for blood. I was placed on leave. My name leaked to local tabloids. Reporters circled my apartment like vultures. The school board issued a statement, cold and hollow. Pending investigation. That should have been it. My life, ruined by a lie. And then he showed up, Ethan Ward, the man behind the school's private funding. A name I only knew from newspapers and angry parents whispering about the man who buys silence. He walked into the board meeting uninvited, spoke for 3 minutes, and walked out with the scandal buried. No charges, no press, no trace. The next morning, I received an envelope, no sender listed. Inside was a single note. Your reputation has been restored. Consider the cost. E.W. I didn't understand until I was summoned to his office. Top floor, glass walls. Everything smelled like money and quiet rage. He sat behind a desk, expressionless. "You were never my problem," he said. "But I liked the way you stood your ground. That kind of fire is rare." I blinked. "Why did you help me?" "Because I need a wife, and I'd rather deal with someone who doesn't smile too easily." Silence. 3 months, no press, no intimacy, no drama. You leave with your name. I keep mine intact. We both win. I should have run. But when the world sees you as a headline, not a human, what choice do you really have? So I signed the contract and became the wife of Ethan Ward. Would you have done it? If the world turned its back on you, would you sell your freedom to someone who doesn't even offer his hand? The room smelled like cedar and control, polished floors, crisp linens, a single glass of untouched champagne sweating on a marble table. Everything looked like it belonged in a magazine. Everything except me. I stood there in my wedding dress, heels in hand, hair slightly undone by the wind. The silence echoed like an accusation. There was no music, no welcome. No husband. Ethan hadn't followed me upstairs. He had left right after the ceremony, with a nod to the driver, a glance at his phone, and not a word to me. Not a touch. Not even a lie like, "You look beautiful." The staff had unlocked the bridal, sweet, handed me a key card, and vanished. Like I was just another corporate acquisition, another asset safely delivered. I walked to the bed, king-sized, immaculate, unused. And in that moment, it hit me. I wasn't a bride. I was a signature on a contract. I hadn't been chosen. I'd been selected. Tell me, if you stood in a room built for romance but filled with silence, would you still lie down and pretend it was love? Have you ever given up a piece of yourself? Not because you wanted to, but because it was the only way to keep what was left? I didn't say yes to love. I said yes to survival, to dignity maybe, to the last sliver of the woman I used to be before they tried to burn her name to the ground. And now I wonder, was it bravery? Or just a different kind of surrender? What would you have done? The house was beautiful. That was the first lie it told. It sat on a cliff above Puget Sound, with glass walls that looked like freedom, until you realized they only offered one-way escape, from the outside in. Inside, everything gleamed. Marble, countertops, curated artwork, floors so spotless they reflected my doubt back at me. Not a single thing out of place, not a single thing that felt like me. Silence lived here. Not the peaceful kind, the rehearsed kind. The kind that crept into your bones and whispered, "Don't touch anything you can't afford to break." I walked barefoot down the hallway, my fingers grazing the edge of a leather banister. Cameras followed me. Tiny, barely noticeable, but very real. I could feel their eyes. This wasn't a home. It was a high-end mausoleum. No family photos, no books with worn pages, no warmth, only symmetry, only surfaces, only control. I found the kitchen. Spotless. Sterile. Someone had stocked it with expensive cheeses I didn't recognize, and wine I didn't drink. A note on the counter, written in Ethan's handwriting. "You'll have full access to the west. Wing. I won't disturb you." Disturb me. As if my existence were an inconvenience. I opened the fridge. Cold air hit my face, and for some reason I wanted to cry. He didn't knock. Of course he didn't. Ethan stepped into the West Wing kitchen like he owned the air between us. Which, technically, he did. Black suit, cufflinks, jaw like carved stone. And those eyes, piercing, unreadable, the kind that saw through people and didn't blink. He set a folder on the counter between us. "You'll find the house policies here. House, not home." I opened it. Schedules. Access codes. Legal terms. Bullet points like commandments. Do not enter the East Wing. Do not attempt to move personal belongings. Do not speak to guests without clearance. Do not expect physical intimacy. Do not ask questions. So I'm not a wife. I'm a well-dressed ghost, I muttered. He looked at me then, just for a second. You're safe here, Ava. That's all that matters. I laughed, quiet, bitter. Is that what you tell all your prisoners? No response. He turned, already leaving. Then, as if it were an afterthought, I don't sleep with strangers. The door shut behind him. No goodbye, no warning. Just silence. Again, and suddenly I understood. This marriage wasn't about company. It was about control. The East Wing was off limits. So naturally, that's where my curiosity wandered. I didn't cross the line, physically, but I lingered near it. A hallway that ended in a locked door. Dark wood, brass handle. The kind of door that doesn't like to be touched, but the office just beside it was open. It looked untouched for weeks, maybe months. Dust settled in the corners. A single beam of light cut across the desk, highlighting a framed photo turned face down. I shouldn't have, but I did. I picked it up. 2 people. A younger Ethan, smiling, unguarded, in a way I hadn't thought possible. And a woman. Tall, elegant, cold beauty. Her eyes didn't match her smile. The brass plate on the frame read, Clara Ward, not Carter. Ward. My stomach sank. I set the frame down, carefully, exactly how it had been, as if moving it too much might wake a ghost. A desk drawer was slightly ajar. I slid it open. Inside, a business card. A boutique law firm in New York. Name on the card? Clara M. Ward, senior partner. So she kept the name, even after leaving him. Or maybe, he never let her go. Sometimes I wonder what hurts more. Loneliness that's honest, or company that feels like absence in disguise. There's something cruel about sharing a house with someone who doesn't see you. Worse, with someone who once loved, but now chooses not to. Clara Ward. She had a room here, a smile beside his. And then, nothing. I don't know if she left, or if she simply faded from the walls. I only know her name still lives here. And mine? It's written in ink, not in memory. Not yet. So tell me, is it lonelier to be alone, or to live beside someone who has no heart left to give? He arrived late, of course. Lucas Hale always did things on his own terms. 3 buttons undone, Rolex flashing. Smile like he already owned the room. He kissed the air beside both my cheeks like we were old friends. Mrs. Ward. You wear obedience well. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He was already pulling out the chair beside mine, uninvited. Ethan sat across from us, completely still. Fork in hand, eyes unreadable. Dinner at our house was usually a silent, cold affair. 1 chef, 2 plates, 0 warmth. But Lucas brought chaos, charm, noise. He poured me wine without asking, brushed my wrist as he handed me the glass. Your husband always this talkative? Or does he save his words for court? Still no response from Ethan. Lucas leaned closer. I used to think he hated people. Now I think he just hates losing control. I looked up. Ethan's jaw tightened by a fraction. Only a fraction. Lucas saw it too, and smiled wider. He didn't flirt because he wanted me. He flirted because it hurt Ethan. And for the first time since our wedding, I felt something crack in my husband's mask. Not rage, not jealousy, restraint, and maybe fear. The knife in Lucas's hand never touched his steak. He was too busy slicing through silence, with words sharper than any blade. So how long's the lease, Ava? He asked, twirling his wine. 3 months? 6? You don't strike me as the long-term type. The room went still. The only sound was the hum of soft jazz in the background, utterly wrong for the moment. I set my fork down, slowly. Excuse me? Lucas smirked. Come on. Everyone in this room knows this isn't a love story. It's asset protection. The perfect merger. I waited for Ethan to say something. To shut it down. To even blink. Nothing. Lucas leaned in, voice lower. It must be strange, living in a palace where the only thing colder than the marble is your husband. Still, Ethan didn't react. Not a look, not a word. I burned, not from shame, from betrayal. I didn't care what Lucas thought of me. But Ethan, he was supposed to pretend I mattered, even if it was a lie. Instead, he let me sit there, humiliated, unclaimed. I pushed my chair back, slow and deliberate. Lucas raised a brow. Touched a nerve? He asked. No. He hit something deeper. The realization that the man I married didn't care enough to defend even the illusion of us. The box arrived the next morning. Black velvet ribbon. No note. It didn't need one. I already knew who it was from. Inside, a dress. Midnight black. Silk. Bare back. Deep plunge. The kind of dress that whispered scandal before you even stepped into it. I held it up in front of the mirror. It clung to my body like sin. It fit perfectly. I wasn't planning to wear it. Not yet. But I didn't hide it either. I laid it across the edge of the bed, deliberate and visible. A question without a question mark. Ethan passed by the doorway that evening. His eyes flicked toward the dress, paused, and then kept walking. No reaction. No comment, not even a raised brow. I stood there, frozen, half expecting, half hoping for something, anything. But Ethan Ward had mastered the art of pretending not to bleed, and suddenly I wasn't sure what made me angrier. Lucas for sending it, or Ethan for acting like he didn't care. I used to think jealousy was ugly, possessive, insecure, a weakness. But now I wonder, what does it mean when someone doesn't get jealous at all? Is it strength or emptiness? Lucas sent me a dress meant to provoke, and Ethan saw it. He looked, and walked away, not a word, not a muscle moved, and that silence. It bruised me more than any insult ever could. So I ask you, if someone doesn't flinch when you're touched by someone else, does that mean they trust you? Or does it mean they don't see anything? Worth holding on to? I told myself it was harmless. A simple favor. A dress fitting. A private viewing of a design Lucas had bragged about over dinner. That's how I justified the message I typed. Then deleted. Then typed again. If you still want to see your dress on a real body, I'll be home tomorrow. 4 p.m. Send. No emojis. No flirtation. Just bait. I didn't tell Ethan. Of course I didn't. This wasn't about Lucas. It wasn't even about the dress. It was about watching Ethan feel something. Anything. I needed to know if I could reach him. Or if the part of him that once cared, if it ever existed, was long gone. The next day, I laid the dress across the bed again. Lucas arrived at 4:05. Sharp suit, unbothered confidence. Nice place, he said, walking past me like he'd been here before. I didn't offer him a drink. I didn't offer him comfort. I led him straight to the bedroom. Help me with the zipper? My voice didn't shake, but something inside me did. This wasn't a seduction. It was a test, and I had no idea who was about to fail it. The room was quiet, too quiet. Late afternoon light filtered through sheer curtains, casting a gold wash over everything, over the floor, the sheets, my bare shoulders. Lucas stood behind me, hands too, confident for a man who hadn't been invited to touch. This fabric's criminal, he said, fingers brushing the low cut of the black dress. Or maybe it's what's underneath that's dangerous. His voice was a whisper, close to my neck. I didn't flinch. Zipper? I asked. He took his time. The slow pull of silk against skin. The soft hiss of thread separating from itself. I stared straight ahead, into the full-length mirror. Watching. Myself not move, and that's when I saw him. Ethan, standing in the doorway, no sound, no warning. Just there. One hand on the frame, one breath caught halfway in his chest. Our eyes locked in the mirror. Lucas didn't notice. He kept sliding the zipper down, slowly, deliberately, until the dress sagged at my waist. But Ethan, he noticed everything. And in that moment, he wasn't cold. He wasn't composed. He was shattered. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't lunge. He didn't even look at Lucas. Out. That was all he said. Low. Controlled. Lethal. Lucas straightened, smoothing his suit like he just won something. But even he didn't push it. He walked past Ethan without a word, and Ethan didn't flinch. The door clicked shut behind him. Then came the silence. But this one felt different, thicker, heavier, like the air had turned to glass and we were both breathing shards. I turned, slowly. The dress was halfway down my back. My skin was bare. My body was shaking. Not from shame, from something I couldn't name. Ethan stood at the threshold. Still, eyes locked on mine like he couldn't decide whether to hate me or fall apart. And I swear, in that moment he looked like a man who'd just lost a war he didn't even know he was fighting. I didn't plan to humiliate him. Not really. But when you live in silence long enough, even pain starts to feel like proof that someone is still alive. So maybe I wasn't trying to hurt him. Maybe I just wanted to know if I still could. Can you blame me for needing to see a crack in his armor? For needing to feel like I mattered enough to shake him? Because when I saw his face, that flash of something behind the ice, I didn't feel proud. I felt seen and terrified. So tell me, have you ever pushed someone, not out of anger, but out of desperation to feel like you exist in their world at all? I thought he'd slam the door, shout, demand, rage. But Ethan just stood, there, his hands curled at his sides, chest rising, eyes on fire. Why? The word dropped like a blade, quiet, precise, deadly. I didn't flinch. I turned my back fully to him, let the dress slide to the floor. Then I faced him, bare and unafraid. Because you don't see me. He said nothing, so I kept going. You walk past me like I'm furniture. You speak to me like I'm staff. You married me, Ethan. And then you buried me alive in silence. He swallowed hard, but still didn't speak. Lucas may be a bastard, but at least he looked at me. A muscle jumped in Ethan's jaw. So that's what this was? He asked. A test? No, I said softly. A scream. I watched his expression shift, from fury to something else. Worse. Realization. For a moment he looked human, wrecked, wounded, and I hated how much it shook me. You wanted to hurt me, he said. No, I whispered. I wanted to matter. Ethan didn't move for a long time. Then slowly, too slowly, he sank to the floor, on his knees, in front of me, and for the first time, he looked small. Her name was Clara, he said. She knew how to love, and how to use it. I didn't speak. I gave her everything. My name, my plans, my future. She gave it to my rival. His voice cracked. Not loud, not dramatic. Just enough to fracture something between us. She didn't just betray me. She sold me. Turned me into a stepping stone. Then sued me for the house she never lived in. He looked up. Eyes red, not wet. That's why I don't touch, don't speak, don't feel. Because the last time I opened the door, someone burned the whole thing down. I knelt too. Not because I forgave him. Not yet. But because for the first time, he wasn't Ethan Ward, the man who owned silence. He was just a man, on a floor, trying not to fall apart. You married me because I felt safe, I said. He shook his head. No, I married you because you were the only thing I couldn't control. We didn't plan it. No slow lean in. No whispered, may I? Just silence and breath. And fire. 1 second we were kneeling, 2 strangers tangled in ghosts. The next, his hands were on my face, and my mouth was on his, and nothing in the world made sense except this. It wasn't soft. It wasn't sweet. It was a crash. His lips bruised mine. My fingers twisted in his shirt. His breath came sharp, desperate, ragged. He tasted like fury, like regret, like a man who had waited too long and hated himself for it. I pulled him closer. He didn't stop me. His hand slid down my spine. Mine clutched his jaw like I could hold the pain in place. We kissed like it was war, like it was prayer, like we'd never get another chance, and maybe we wouldn't. But in that moment, he wasn't the man who watched me undress. He was the man who finally came undone. I thought I wanted to hurt him. I thought I needed revenge for every cold glance, every empty room, every time he walked past me like I was furniture. But when he kissed me, when he trembled beneath his own hands, I realized something that scared me more than silence ever did. He wasn't as strong as I thought. And I wasn't as numb as I hoped. Maybe I never wanted to break him. Maybe I just needed proof that he could still bleed. And maybe, just maybe, that proof was enough to start forgiving both of us. The bedroom was darker than usual. No overhead, light. Just the soft flicker of candles Ethan had lit without saying a word. Their glow danced across the walls, golden and slow, casting long shadows over the bed. The sheets were already a little wrinkled, as if the room had been waiting, as if it knew what was coming before we did. I stood by the door, watching him. Ethan sat at the edge of the mattress, hands clasped, shoulders tense, not from anger, from restraint. He didn't speak. Neither did I. But the silence wasn't heavy this time. It was full of questions we weren't going to ask, full of answers we didn't need words for. He looked up at me, and for the first time, his expression wasn't guarded. It was raw, not desire, not yet, just vulnerability. Want. The kind of want that's been buried for too long, growing sharp around the edges. I stepped forward. 1 step, then another. He didn't move. But when I reached him, when I touched his jaw lightly, he leaned into it like he hadn't been touched in years. And maybe he hadn't. Maybe this was both of us learning how to want again. In the quiet. In the dark. In a room filled with light neither of us trusted just yet. He stood when I touched him. Didn't say a word. Didn't need to. Ethan's fingers moved to my waist first, brushing fabric, not skin, as if asking for permission without asking out loud. I didn't stop him. He unzipped my dress slowly. Deliberate. His knuckles grazed my spine, and I swear, I forgot how to breathe. The silk slid down my arms, then my thighs, then the floor. His eyes followed it. Not hungry. Focused. Like I was something to be studied, memorized. I reached for his belt, unfastened it with calm fingers, but inside, I was wildfire. His jacket hit the floor, then the shirt, then skin. Warm, firm, alive. When our mouths met again, it wasn't like the kiss before. This time there was no hesitation, just pull, and want, and friction. His lips moved from mine to my jaw, to my neck, to the line of my shoulder. I pushed him backward onto the bed, climbed over him like I'd done it before, like I hadn't been untouched for years, like this was always meant to happen. His hands gripped my hips, hard. We moved without instruction, without control, just heat and instinct. His mouth found the hollow beneath my collarbone. My nails left half-moons on his back. We didn't whisper names. We didn't make promises. We just gave in. And somewhere between the gasp and the moan, between the press of chest and the arch of spine, we stopped being two people playing roles. We became one wildfire, burning, finally burning. We didn't speak. The candles had burned low, casting a softer light now, like the room itself had exhaled. Ethan lay beside me, chest rising steady against the hush. His hand found mine. Not forcefully. Not out of habit. Just there. And when I tried to move, just slightly, he gripped tighter. Not possessive. Just afraid I might disappear. No words. Just skin. Warm. Grounded. Real. We stared at the ceiling like it held answers. It didn't. But somehow, the silence between us didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. I thought I'd regret it. Giving in. Letting him touch me. Letting myself want. I thought I'd wake up ashamed, buried in silk sheets and silence. But I didn't. Instead, I felt awake. More than I had in months. Years, maybe. Not because of the way he held me. Not because he finally looked at me. But because for the first time, I stopped pretending. I wasn't the perfect bride. The quiet wife. The woman holding her breath. I was just me. Raw. Real. Unapologetic. And maybe, just maybe, this was the moment I stopped surviving and started living. It started with a whisper, a passing headline in a minor business blog, an anonymous tip, a carefully timed leak. Ethan Ward's mystery bride allegedly tied to payout clause in prenuptial deal. By noon, it was everywhere. Gold digger. Quiet scandal. Power imbalance. Lucas Hale's fingerprints weren't visible, but I knew his style. Messy elegance. He didn't swing hammers. He pulled threads, quietly, until everything unraveled. Ethan was on a call when it hit. I watched from the doorway as his posture changed, shoulders stiffening, jaw locking into that telltale grind. He didn't say my name. He didn't ask, just stared out the window like it had betrayed him too. That night, the house went silent again. Not the thick, painful silence from before. This one was worse. It was the silence of doubt, of suspicion creeping back in through cracks we hadn't sealed. He didn't touch me, didn't look at me, and I didn't know if I should be angry or heartbroken, because I had finally let him in. And now, someone else's lie was doing what my own body couldn't, pulling him away. Again, he waited until the house was empty. No staff, no noise. Just him and me. I found him in the study, standing by the fireplace with a glass of something he hadn't touched. He didn't turn around. Was it all fake? 3 words. Soft. Steady. Devastating. I didn't answer right away. I wanted to ask, how dare you? I wanted to scream after everything we've shared, but I didn't. Instead, I stepped forward. Slowly. Deliberately. And took off my ring. The sound it made as I placed it on the table was louder than his voice. He looked at it. Not me. You could have asked me, I said quietly. Instead, you asked the lie. Still, no eye contact, just the weight of everything we didn't say. I turned. I made it halfway to the door before I heard him whisper. I didn't know how to ask without sounding like her. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. Then maybe you're not ready for someone who isn't her. And I walked out. No suitcase, no plan. Just a heart full of proof, and nowhere left to leave it. The building was old, peeling paint, cracked tile, faded murals done by small hands. But the laughter was real. The first day back at the children's center, a girl with tangled curls hugged my legs before I could introduce myself. "You smell like crayons," she said, and ran off. I smiled. No cameras, no contracts. Just small fingers learning to hold a paintbrush. My days were simple. Watercolor lessons, story time, lunch trays, sticky hugs. My nights were quieter. No silk sheets, no imported wine. Just a twin mattress, a worn-out journal, and silence that no longer asked for answers. I donated the dresses, threw away the shoes, but I kept the ring box, empty, untouched. Not because I was holding on, but because some things shouldn't be buried. They should be remembered. Softly, honestly, from a distance. And yet, every time a man walked past the center gate, I still looked up before I could stop myself. Have you ever been doubted by the one person you needed to believe in you? Not a stranger, not the world. Him, the one who looked at you like you were everything, until he looked at you like you were a threat. That shift, that pause before they speak, that shadow in their eyes. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And somehow, it cuts deeper. Because love doesn't always die from betrayal. Sometimes it dies from hesitation. So tell me, have you ever watched someone love you with one hand, while holding suspicion in the other? The storm hit just before sunset. The kids were restless, lightning flashing like applause outside their windows. I stayed late, helping clean up the art room. That's when I saw him, through the blur of rain, past the gate, standing there like he didn't feel the cold, like he didn't deserve to. Ethan Ward. No umbrella, no coat, soaked to the bone, and holding nothing, except the ring box I'd left behind. I stepped outside before I could stop myself. He didn't speak. Not right away. Then, quietly, as the rain softened around us, "I'm sorry." I didn't move. He knelt, in the mud, in a suit worth more than the building behind me. I believed a lie because it was easier than facing the truth. And the truth is, I was afraid. His voice broke there. Afraid of loving you. Afraid of not knowing how. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because when a man finally learns how to break for someone, you don't stop him. You let him fall. And then, maybe, you help him stand again. He stayed on his knees longer than I expected. Long enough for the rain to soften his hair, smear the mud on his cuffs, and quiet the street around us. I opened the gate. "Ethan," I said gently, "stand up. Come inside." He looked up, and for the first time, I saw a man completely undone. "No," he said. "Not yet. Not until I tell you everything." I waited. His voice was low, but steady now. The voice of a man with nothing left to hide. "The moment I saw someone else touch you, not just with hands, but with ease, like they had the right, that's when I knew." A pause. A breath. "I had already lost you. Not to Lucas, not to scandal, but to my own silence." He looked down, his thumb brushing the corner of the ring box. "I didn't lose you that night. I lost you the second I chose control over connection." He met my eyes again. I never truly had you. Because I was too afraid to reach for you. And someone else did. He swallowed hard. And I realized I would rather be hurt by loving you than safe without you. He held the ring box like it still carried weight, like it still meant something. But I didn't look at the box. I looked at him, hair dripping, suit ruined, walls down. And I saw the man I'd waited for. Not the billionaire, not the broken boy. Just Ethan. "What now?" he asked, barely above a whisper. I stepped closer, rain soaking through my cardigan, my collar, my spine. "Now," I said, "you stop being afraid." His breath caught, and I reached for his hand. I didn't need the ring. I needed the man who chose love over fear, who showed up, not perfect but real. "Yes," I said. "Yes, I'm yours." No violin swelled, no crowd cheered, just rain, and his hands, and a kiss that silenced every ghost between us. We kissed like the storm would never end. And maybe we didn't want it to. He broke me. Not with violence, but with silence. With the way he held back when I needed him to reach. And yet, he came back, drenched, bare, without defense, not asking to be right, just asking to be seen. So I said yes, not because he was perfect, but because he stopped pretending to be. Do you believe people can change? Not overnight, but moment by moment, choice by choice? I do. But still, sometimes, late at night, I wonder, would you have forgiven him? A man like that. Cold, proud, but willing to kneel. Would you? I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who forgives a man for breaking her heart. And maybe that's not what I did. Maybe I just finally understood that people love the way they were taught to survive. Ethan didn't. Wake up one morning and decide to be cold. He became quiet because love, for him, had once come with noise, then vanished. He learned silence not out of strength, but out of necessity. He built walls not to lock people out, but to keep what was left of himself from spilling through the cracks. And me? I mistook his stillness for indifference. I mistook his control for cruelty. And worst of all, I mistook his fear for failure. But here's the truth. No one tells you. Healing doesn't always look like a second chance. Sometimes healing is just standing together in the ruins of what almost broke you. And saying, let's try again. We want love to be obvious, cinematic, loud, but the real kind. The kind that endures. It often arrives quietly. It's in how they wait for your answer without pushing. It's in how they say your name like they're still learning its weight. It's in how they show up, sopping wet, empty-handed, without defense, not to be forgiven, but to be real. I told myself I'd never be weak, that walking away was strength, that silence was power, that being untouched made me untouchable. But I've learned something else. Staying, after you've been hurt, requires a courage most people never speak of. It's not weakness, it's war. And the battlefield is inside your own chest. I didn't stay because Ethan changed overnight. I stayed because when he finally broke, he didn't run. He kneeled, not to beg, but to say, I see you, I hear you, and I want to learn how to stay. We don't forgive because they deserve it. We forgive because we deserve peace. Bitterness is a prison with no windows. And I was tired of decorating the bars. If you've ever been lied to, doubted, abandoned, you're not alone. But ask yourself, did they return not just sorry, but different? Did they look you in the eye without excuses and say, you didn't lose me, I lost you? Did they stop talking about love and start learning how to live it? Then maybe, just maybe, they're worth one more sunrise. movies lie. Love isn't proven by proposals under fireworks. Love is proven in the way they show up, at your worst. And still ask to stay, in how they take your hand, not to lead, not to own, but to hold. I kept the ring box, not because I needed the jewelry, but because I needed a reminder that what's broken isn't always ruined, and what's bent by fear can be held upright by choice. So here I am, not the same woman I was, not untouched, not perfect, but stronger, softer, finally free. Free to love without proving anything. Free to stay without explaining everything. Free to forgive without losing myself. So I ask you, have you ever seen someone come back, not because they had nowhere else to go, but because they finally realized, you were always home? Because I have. And I said yes. Not to the ring. Not to the apology. But to the man who finally said my name like it meant something, and meant it.